Hey everybody, you're all very welcome to Wednesday's live call inside the Facebook group Map Your Future ABA, the place where we go from A to B and then we decide we're going to go for a bigger and brighter A. Later today, this call will be on my YouTube channel, which I have renamed Map Your Future 25. And if you're watching on YouTube, do subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes. Anyway, you're all very welcome to today's call. Like last week, I'm doing it via Zoom as I have a presentation to share and I still haven't figured out how to do PowerPoint via Facebook yet. I'm no tech whiz, that's for bloody sure. So, following on from last week, I'm going to share some things around the paradigm, the conditioning every single one of us has. And you need to know you can never outperform your paradigm, but you can reprogram it. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do in the series. Okay. Now, I do want to get this information out to as many people as I possibly can because I know it changes lives. And I want to get it in front of as many like minded people as possible. And I need your help for that. So I would really appreciate if you can invite some people that you know that would really benefit from the content that I'm sharing in Map Your Future here in the group. And I want you all to know that I'm so very grateful for each and every one of you that you're part of this community here. And thank you for being a part of it as well. Okay. So, anyway, back to today, I would encourage you to remove any distractions. You won't want to miss a single part of this or any of the important points. So, I'd suggest do have a pen with you. Have some paper with you, take some notes of anything that resonates with you. It resonates with you for a reason. So, last week I shared a bit about the paradigm and the difference between the conscious and the subconscious minds. And this week, I'm going to get into how the paradigm, the conditioning, the programming was created to begin with. And then next week, I'm going to show you how to change it. After today, you're going to know where your paradigm came from. And without knowing that, we don't develop, or we can't really develop the awareness of how to change it because we don't know of its existence. So it's super important that we know about this. Now, after today, you'll deeply understand this so much more, and then life will make more sense. The more you understand paradigms, where they come from, what they are, the more life starts making a whole lot more sense. So let me start up my presentation. And always a good place to start from. There we go, we're up and running. You gotta love when technology works for you. So here we have the stakes person, if you can remember from last week. And we have the mind. The big circle represents the mind, and that splits into the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the small circle represents the body. And the antennae here on the top, they represent our senses. We can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Remember from last week, the conscious mind is your thinking mind. Your higher mental faculties, your superpowers are there. You have the abilities, you have imagination, the will, reason, memory, intuition, and perception. All the knowledge that you've gathered is there. Everything that you have ever learned thus far is loaded up into your conscious mind. You have the ability to think. You can accept and reject any idea, and you can originate ideas. You can come up with your own ideas. And this all happens in your conscious mind. The subconscious mind, of course, is very, very different. It's the emotional mind, it's where all your long term memories are stored, it's where your habits reside. And your conditioned beliefs are here, beliefs you might not even be aware that you have. Your self image is here. That's how you perceive you, how you think of yourself on a deep level. And remember, the big difference between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind is the subconscious mind has no ability to reject, it must accept. Now, only 5% of your actions, your behaviors, and ultimately your results are dictated by your conscious mind. That means 95% of your life as control is dictated by your paradigm in your subconscious mind. Now, back to today. Today I'm going to share how your paradigm was formed to begin with, where the beliefs that are locked up inside of you came from. And you need to know your paradigm is not your fault. You are not responsible for creating your paradigm, but to change the paradigm, that is up to you should you decide you want to experience better results in your life. You're not responsible for the cards you were dealt, but you are responsible for how you choose to play them. Now, you were programmed. Every single one of us was. This programming happens through the DNA. Some of the conditioning is genetic, and a great deal of the programming happens through your environment, especially when you were a small child. So let's look at genetics first. So let's go right back to the beginning of you. So a little particle of mom and a little particle of dad, they came together and combined. Your conditioning began right there. Your conditioning began right at the point of conception. Then 280 days later, you made your grand debut on planet Earth. You are a result of 50% of your mother's DNA and 50% of your father's DNA. Now, if we look at your mum and dad, they are a result of a particle of your grandparents' DNA coming together on both sides. And this goes some way to explain why we have characteristics and traits that neither of our parents have, but that our grandparents or even our great grandparents had. This explains how a child may have different hair and eye color to both parents, but share the eye color or hair color of an older relative. That's genetic makeup, that's genetic conditioning. Okay? Now let's look at the environmental conditioning, which my mentor Bob Proctor stated often accounts for way more of our conditioning than our genetics at birth. Now, when you were a child for the first 8 years of your life, and especially for the first 4 or 5 years, because that's before you had developed a conscious mind. So let this here represent little you in your little life from a time when you were a newborn baby. So you'll notice here on the stick person graphic, the top half is missing. The conscious mind even really only starts to develop from 4 years onwards, and is generally developed by the time that we're 8 years old. Now, you see, from the time you were born and when you were very, very young, you hadn't the benefit of a conscious mind yet. This means you had no ability to reject any of the ideas that were going on around you. You could only accept them. You see, when you were young, you did not have a conscious mind, meaning you had no ability to reason, to reject. You had no choice. You could not reject any of the ideas that were going on around you. You could only accept them, because that is all the subconscious mind can do. The subconscious mind has no ability to reject, it must accept. Think. Think for a second about something as simple as food, some of the foods that you eat. When you really think about it, you'll start to realize much of the food that you eat and like because your parents gave it to you when you were too small to decide if you liked it or not. And then you that we have acquired the taste for is shocking. Now, think a bit deeper about this for a moment, and then you'll realize that the same thing is true with your parents and some of the foods that they like to eat. You have to go a long way back into the family tree to work out who originally decided on some of the foods you all like to eat. Now, equally, you would also have to go a long way back to uncover who decided some of the values, beliefs, rules, and ideas floating around in your subconscious mind, many of which you're unaware of, as they were installed before you could make any discerning decisions about your preferences. This is how a great deal of your paradigm came into existence. Remember, the paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior, and almost all of our behavior is habitual. The paradigm is stored in the subconscious mind. It's where all your habits, beliefs, and behaviors now are. Now, this is startling when you first become aware of this. You were programmed. Every single one of us was programmed. This is where all the ideas, all the rules, all the values, all the beliefs were all dumped in. They all went into your subconscious mind at a time when you couldn't make your own decisions. So much of your conditioning comes from your environment. We have been carrying a lot of these ideas and beliefs since we were toddlers. And some of these beliefs have been in your family for generations, passed on down. The environment is the main cause of how we were programmed. And it's no wonder that you might not be getting some of the results in your life that you're really striving for, that you're looking for, the results that you really want. It's no wonder. why you might not be achieving these results. Results like success in your business or in your career or in your income or in your relationships or in your health or in any of the different parts of your life that you want to improve and change. How your paradigm came to be is not your fault. You are not responsible for the cards you were dealt, but you are responsible for how you choose to play them. Now, before you get all bent out of shape and pointing fingers, which I can tell you is a massive, massive waste of time, and it really wastes a lot of time and energy, and I'm not proud of it, but I have to admit, I did blame my folks for a time when I first learned about the existence of paradigms and where they came from. And I can tell you it did me absolutely no good. Until we all understand if it's going to be, it's up to me. Things don't really change. We've got to take responsibility for our lives. Now, you're not responsible for your paradigm, but you are responsible for changing it. So before you get out bent out of shape, right, and pointing fingers and blaming your parents, they didn't know about this information. They couldn't teach you about what they didn't know. My parents didn't know about this information. My parents did the best at the time. And I'm positive that the vast majority of parents do the very best they can for their kids with the knowledge that they have at the time they're raising them. Listen, I've got a near 30-year-old daughter. I have a 14-year-old daughter. I have an 11-year-old boy. How I treat them now is very different than how I used to treat them because I'm more aware now. Okay? And that's what we got to be aware of. I'm really grateful that I've learned this information, that I've learned about paradigms, what they are and where they come from. Because by being aware of what the paradigm is and how it came to be, I have been fortunate to be able to change it. And I continue to change it. The paradigm is big. But that wouldn't have happened without knowing of its existence first. Now, I want to be super clear before I share this next part with you. I am not anti education, and I believe education is the cornerstone of our society. But we've been conditioned to believe that you have learned when you read something, you're able to remember and then answer questions about it. Read, remember, repeat. You do that enough and you pass the test. You do it long enough and you can get to the degree, and it's said that you have learned and you are educated. What you've really done is you have gathered information. You have read, you have remembered, and you are able to repeat. Real learning is where you entertain an idea. You emotionalize the idea. You step out and you act on the idea and you observe a different result. And depending on the nature of that result, you adapt and you go again until you achieve the results that you want. That's what real learning is. The word education comes from the Latin word educo, which means to educe, to draw out from within. All your answers are on the inside. There is so much more to you than meets the eye. All science and all theology tells us that we have limitless potential. The most educated scientist can't even guess at the potential locked up inside all of us. School, it did give us valuable knowledge. It most certainly did, especially the ability to read, to understand language, so that we can communicate effectively. Now, I would presume everybody who was watching this call or was on this call went to school. Everybody listening in here, I would think, have had some form of formal education. School, it did give us valuable knowledge. But one of the weaknesses of traditional education is we were taught to read, memorize, and repeat. However, no one in school ever taught us how to alter our paradigms. School does not teach this, it does not teach us how to change the paradigm. Therefore, we frequently don't do what we know how to do. There is a considerable gap between what we know and what we know how to do. So someone can be extremely smart, very knowledgeable, getting all A's in school and then later degrees afterwards, and have what we would deem superior knowledge, and yet still be getting inferior results in their lives. How is that possible? We've all been told that those that do well in school, those that have a lot of knowledge, are going to do well in life. This is not always the case. And in fact, it's the complete opposite in many cases. They have superior knowledge but inferior results. There are millions of people with degrees all across the world not doing what they really want to, not doing what they're capable of, not and actually getting results that they don't want. Now, as you can imagine, there are a lot of confused and frustrated people in the world that have a lot of knowledge and yet the results are still poor. They are frustrated. They read, remembered, and repeated what they remembered. They got the degree, but they are not living lives they want. They are confused and frustrated and they don't know why. You know why. It's the paradigm. That's why. So, look, we have the conscious mind where all our senses are hooked up, and we have the subconscious mind where all our habits, beliefs, and behaviors are, aka the paradigm is resident. Now, everything that you have ever learned from school, college, university, training courses you've been on, the books that you have read, the things that you've studied on your own, that's all stored in your conscious mind. But that is not the main factor when it comes to the cause of your results. It only accounts for 5% of the results. The conscious mind only controls 5% of how you think, feel, act, and behave. It's only responsible for 5% of your results. This is where the saying comes from. It's 5% strategy and 95% mindset. The 95% is coming from the paradigm, what's going on in the subconscious mind, how your mind is set. It's the paradigm in the subconscious that dictates how you feel, how you act, and how you behave through the body. It dictates most of your actions, your behaviors, and ultimately the results that you experience. If you want to get different results, you must change the paradigm in your subconscious mind. You must change your beliefs. Now, this is a black and white thing here, right? Without changing the paradigm, your results are doomed to repeat themselves over and over until you finally decide to change the paradigm or die, whichever comes sooner. Now, there's a wake up call, a punch to the guts. And that's how I felt when I first became aware of this. And I wrestled. I wrestled with would I share that with you or not, but you need to know the truth. Without changing your paradigm, your results are doomed to repeat themselves over and over and over until you finally decide enough is enough and you decide you're going to change your paradigm. So I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger here, folks. That's it for today. Make sure you're back next week where I'm going to show you how to change the paradigm should you decide that that is something that you want to do. So for the week ahead, I would encourage you to keep some notes of things that you're becoming aware of. I would encourage you all to keep a journal. It doesn't have to be anything that's cumbersome. It can be as simple as a little notebook or a piece of paper in your pocket, just to jot some things down to come into your awareness, or maybe even a note in your phone. I would encourage you do watch the videos here as many times as you can. The more you understand what a paradigm is what I covered in day one, and where the paradigm comes from, which is what I cover today, the easier it will be to see how to change it, which is what I'm going to cover next week. Now, if you have any questions about today's call or any of the content I share in Map Your Future, ABA, or Map Your Future 25, the new YouTube channel, you can email me at ABEALE, that's ABEALE, at ANTHONYBEALE.ie. Or if you want to know more about how you can work with me, you can book in for a discovery call. I'll pop a link for the discovery call in the comment section below. The discovery call is all about you discussing what you're currently doing, what your goals are, what are the improvements you want to make in your life, and what needs to change to make those happen. One last thing before I wrap it up. A number of folks were in touch asking me about my routine and how do I make this work for me. So for 1 week only, I'm going to give you my most up-to-date routine, which I call Balance Your Day 8.0, which is my personal routine. And I created a guide, some videos and audio, and that toolkit is going to be available, but only for a week. These are tools that I personally use every day, which help me in so many different areas in my life, from clarity and being my best version of me on a daily basis, to getting more done, being way more effective and productive, overcoming limiting beliefs, which I do have, and changing habits that don't serve me, which I still have. And I'll pop a link below in the comment section for that too. And if you're watching this on replay or on YouTube, the link will be there. But today is the 30th of October 2024. So this will be available only until the 6th of November 2024. So get yours while it is available. I hope you all have a great week, everybody. And I'll see you next week where I'm going to share how to change the paradigm. God bless you all.